Have you found yourself duplicating the same use state and use effect code across React components again and again and again? Well, you might not just be duplicating logic, but also duplicating potential bugs and causing maintenance headache. What if I told you you are just one custom hook away from eliminating all that duplicate code? In this video, we are going to be going over how to create your own custom hook in React. First of all, let me use this slide to explain some concepts before we go into our coding environment. So what exactly is a custom hook? A custom hook is just a regular JavaScript function in React that starts with the word use, and inside it you can reuse or you can create stateful logic that you want to reuse across components. Emphasis on the stateful logic because this is what separates a custom hook from a regular function. A regular function cannot store state, but inside a function hook we can store state because we are able to use the React built-in hooks like useState and useEffect inside our custom hooks. Why should we use custom hook? We use custom hook to encapsulate state and side effect. I said previously, custom hooks allow you use the built-in hooks just like useState and useEffect, and we use it to encapsulate that state and the logic around the state or built around the state for us to reuse somewhere else in our code. It also helps our components to be clean and maintainable. So one rule in programming is do not repeat yourself, the dry principle. So it helps us to actually follow this principle, keeping our code clean and then maintainable. With that said, let's head over to our coding environment for you to see custom hooks in action. So right here in our code, we have our pop-up component. It's a very simple component, and what we are trying to achieve here is to show a pop-up when the user click on this button. So when the user click on this button, we show this pop-up, and when the user click on this button right here that says close, this pop-up is closed. To achieve this, we are using our useState here to store a boolean state which is either false or true, and then we have this close handler that sets that state to false, that means sets it to false, and then we have the open handler that sets the state to true. We are passing open handler to this click here function, or click here button, sorry, and when we click on it we have this pop-up opened, and then we are passing the close handler here. If I run this code, so I think it's already running. If I go to the browser and I click here, have congrats, a pop-up, and if I click close, it actually closes. Now this here is a bit messy for me. Right here is quite simple, but this we can easily simplify this and make this more reusable and maintainable, and we can do that through our custom hook. So to create our custom hook, we head over to our source folder and then we create a folder called hooks. Now this makes sense because this is where I'm going to put all my custom hook. And to create our custom hook, we also create a new file, and I'm going to use a naming convention that you're going to find in React, most React projects. We start with the use and then the name of the file. So I'm just going to call this toggle.gsx, and I'm going to create the file. So here I'm going to export default function, and this is also important. We start the function name with use, so we say use, then the function toggle. The function name we want to give it is toggle, use toggle. See how I'm naming it, and then with this we have created a custom hook, but this custom hook doesn't do anything. It doesn't return anything useful, and it doesn't do anything. So to actually make this useful, we are going to head over to this our pop-up.jx, extract this code right here. So extract this code and put it in here. Put it in here and save. What I'm going to do is that I'm just going to import this useState right here, and I want to return our toggle state. So whosoever is going to be using this our custom hook can have the toggle state, and I'll also return our open and close handler right here, so we can toggle the states to true or false. So to do this, I'm just going to pass in our toggle states using ES6, so you don't have to use the color and the value, just have close handler, then comma, open handler, and then I save this. Right here, we have created a use toggle custom hook that we can use in any React component. So after saving this, I'm going to head over to my pop-up and I'm going to try clearing this out, and I'm going to try and import our use toggle hook right here, and I'm just going to call this right here. I'm going to destructure the necessary return values that I need. I need the close handler, and I also need the open handler, and I need the toggle state. As you can see, once I save this and I head back to the browser and I click, it works perfectly. There's no problem. If I click close, it works perfectly. So with this, I've been able to reduce that line of code to just one line, and as you can see, this is more cleaner. This is a more cleaner component and it looks more readable, and you can maintain and reuse use toggle quite easily. You just need to, if you need to make a change, you just need to make the change right here, and it's going to affect every component that is using use toggle. To solidify your knowledge, I'm going to take one more example that is close to a real world application of using custom hooks. If you have reached here so far, chances are this resonated with you. I did appreciate it if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to stay connected. Let's head over to our user is online component. This is just a simple component, and what it does is that if the user is online, it shows the user that the user is actually online, and if the user is offline, it shows us that we are offline. And we are using this is online state to track this. We set it to false if we are offline and true if we are online. Here we are using use effect to sync, to put everything in sync. Here we have an online status handler which sets our is online to true, and an offline status handler which sets our is online to false. We are also adding an event here. We are doing windows.add event listener, and we are adding an online event and passing this our online status handler, so this can be toggled to be true when we are online, and we are passing in our offline status handler right here so that we can toggle it to be false when we are offline. And then we are returning this to clear the event listener and as good practice from this use effect. So if we head over to our browser, you can see I'm currently online, but to toggle this, I'm just going to go over to my network tab. Here is my network tab, and I'm going to toggle this to offline, and as you can see, we are offline. If I toggle it back to fast 4G, we are online. Heading back to our code, as you can see right here, this is a little bit messy and we can do better. But for instance, if we have a form component and we want to use this, so we copy this, we want to use this in our form component because we want the user to only submit our form when he is online, and give the user also a feedback when he's offline so he can know why the form cannot be submitted at that moment. If we copy that code and we paste it right here, this can cause a little bit of problem. Let's take for instance, I made a mistake here, or there was a bug right here, and I copied it over to this part of the code. By the time I spot the bug in this file and I correct it, and perhaps I forgot that I copied or I'm using this code somewhere else, I'm only able to fix this bug in this file, and it doesn't affect this code right here, so the bug remains, and this can be solved using custom hooks. So I'm going to extract this logic and I'm going to put it into a custom hook. So let's head over to create our second custom hook, and we are going to call this use is online tsx.gxs. GXS. I'm used to writing TypeScript anyways. .gsx, and I'm going to try and create an export default function, and we're going to start with use and then is online, and then we're going to try and paste this in right here. So I'm pasting this in, and I'm going to say use state. All right, and I'm going to also try and import use effects. Let me close this up. With this, I'm almost done. What I just need to return is the is online state for any component to use. So right here, I've converted that whole logic, and I've encapsulated that whole logic into this custom hook, and I'm going to use it in this component. So to do that, I'm just going to get rid of all these, and I'm just going to say use is online, and I'm just going to map it to this variable, to this constant variable here, is online, and say equals to use is online. With this, I've eradicated that long code, and whosoever is reading this will just see this and say, oh yes, I probably know what is happening here. I'm tracking the online state of the browser, or the user's online state, and I'm just going, and the person that wrote this code is just using it here. This is quite simpler, and if I want to use this in our form, I can just copy this line of code. Let me just copy this just to save time, and I head over to our form and paste it here, and then I can I'll import it, use is online, and then I'm going to tell the user based off his online state. So if the user is online, I want to tell the user that you can submit your form, else we can tell you connecting, or check your internet connection. So I'm just going to say connecting right here, and right here you can see why custom hooks are powerful and they are useful. Perhaps there is an error or a bug. I can go over here and correct that error, and I've done that for every component that is using this use is online hook. This is why custom hooks are powerful, and they help you create reusable stateful logic. Feel free to create one of your own and use them in your React code. See you next time. Cheers.